Riddle's Court came to us in 2008 when we were approached by some people who had heard that the building was about to be sold, and they were very concerned that it was going to be lost.
Riddle's Court is a tremendous history, and it's really rich historic in building. The vision behind what we're doing is to reveal that history of development, that sort of evolutionary change that's happened over hundreds of years, and to layer on another contribution to that in the 21st century that makes it fit for purpose going forward into the next generation.
Riddle's Court is a really important project to the Trust. We've been around for over 35 years, saving derelict and redundant buildings throughout the whole of Scotland, and in that time we've raised over £30 million to save over 25 important buildings.
We started with an archaeological survey, which started with a trawl of information, a desktop survey, and then coming into the building and looking at the various thicknesses of the walls, documenting all the relevant parts of the building and piecing together a picture of how the building was and the relative ages of the different structures, which started us looking at areas that had been built later, where there were gaps in our understanding of the plan, where there might be something that we discovered later on. We then made small holes in the structure and put in cameras on bore scopes and had a look to see whether we could actually see anything inside the areas we knew there was something unknown. From there, we also did all sorts of practical surveys, which were CCTV surveys of drainage, of the flues. We brought in specialists to look at the paint and the plaster. And we also did a dendrochronology study of some of the timbers in the building. And from all that, we discovered lots and lots of small pieces of information that have helped us piece together the life of the building in the past, what we think was where, what was older than what, where there were some gaps that we might be able to find something in the building, which has been a fascinating study. Gradually,
as rooms have been opened up and enlarged, that's obviously exposed a lot of the original fabric. And one of the things we've been trying to understand is which came first, which block. And having conducted research on both wings now, pretty sure that the north block came first and then the west block was added to it. And little things like that are evident in the fabric. So it's really tweaking out that information. And already it's beginning to sort of challenge our early ideas on how the building's evolved.
It's just its sheer richness of change. It's probably been more altered than any other building I've ever worked on. There's layer upon layer of developmental change. Each generation is layered onto the past generations, but also cared for them. They've not destroyed where they haven't needed to, and I think that presents itself as a very rich history, which is why we want to try and express that in the building when it's finished.
I mean, there isn't a straight line in the building, really, and there's been so much gone on over the last 450 years, and all the different trades that have, all the kind of the different people that have been involved in the past. Looking at the historical documents, probably the richest buildings of its type for the amount of information that it's provided about how it's developed. But the fabric itself, the building itself, is just a challenge, really.
No two rooms were on the same level, and that was a challenge for anybody who was providing a service.
It has so many different challenges, from the physical challenges, design challenges, to accommodate what we need to do. The protection of the fabric, the tight site. It's not a huge building. It's been quite difficult to work on the site.
We're adopting Patrick Geddes' principle of conservative surgery. And that means that you understand what's of importance in what you've got, and then you try and think about what's the minimum necessary to change to revitalise the whole. And you make sure that any new work that you do is worthy of its place in that whole. It's got to be of its own time, and it's got to be of suitable quality.
We've got 16th, 17th, 18th and 19th century spaces And we're not trying to homogenise those, we're not trying to make those all look like each other. We are trying to preserve and conserve those as they are, so you can see the different history of the building as you move through the building. We hope that this building will be viewed in 50, 100 years' time, and people will see things of interest that if we have enough foresight we'll leave here and they may see then and be glad of us keeping.
This is a very special building. It's a high status building, and we've always known that. But some of the archaeology that we've uncovered as we've investigated the building and opened it up, and we did a lot before we actually started on site, but it's really only once you start on site that some of the things that we think might be there came to light.
There have been many, many exciting parts. The fireplace find was a really, really big one. That was an absolutely cracking find. Everybody was delighted. The archaeologist was quite excited. The rest of us were jumping up and down.
What we've been able to find is some of the answers to a lot of the questions, and we now know that, we now think that that fireplace cooked the banquet for James VI. And that's an incredible thing to still have and to have accessible to the public.
When we discovered the extra painted beams and boards in the building, it really started me thinking about the date of the painted beams and boards, which are from 1598, and the banquet that those painted beams and boards were celebrating was between King James VI, his wife, Queen Anne of Denmark, and her brother, who is the Duke of Holstein. And the Duke of Holstein was a prince of Denmark. They were part of the Danish royal family, and this is late 16th century, and at that time there's a certain playwright in London who's writing or about to write a play about the Danish royal family. And I'm sure there is no direct connection, but it's part of the feeling of the time. So, these things are just hugely exciting and lovely to think about. This is a building that we're looking at that has got these connections. And when we found the chimney, there is undoubtedly medieval soot in that chimney. Maybe the soot from the banquet and they were cooking for those people at that time. These are great things to be a part of and be close to. It certainly makes your working day very interesting.
There's lots of different layers of history that we hope will inspire people to just enjoy, to learn, to be inspired to learn, or just to come and have a really good party.